In September 2025, nearly 85,000 American homeowners pulled their homes off the market without selling, the highest number for that month in 8 years. And Florida didn't just lead the pack, it dominated it. Miami had the single highest delisting rate of any major metro in the country. Fort Lauderdale was right behind it. West Palm Beach made it 3 Florida cities in the top 5. And those sellers didn't disappear. They waited. And now, heading into spring 2026, tens of thousands of those same homes are quietly coming back, relisted, repriced, and hitting buyers all at once. According to Resi Club and Altos research data, there were 76,426 relisted homes nationwide in the first weeks of 2026. That's up from 64,000 during the same stretch last year. And a big chunk of that wave, it's coming from Florida. This is the story behind those numbers, what actually happened, why sellers gave up in the first place, and what it means for everyone watching the Florida market right now. Before we get into it, if you follow housing market news, real estate investing, or you're thinking about buying or selling in the next 12 months, make sure you hit subscribe. We break down this stuff without the noise, just the data and what it actually means for you. Hit subscribe and let's get into it. To understand why so many Florida sellers gave up, you have to go back to mid-2025. The pandemic boom was long over. Mortgage rates had climbed and stayed elevated, hovering above 6% through most of the year, and buyers had options again. Inventory was climbing in Florida faster than almost anywhere else in the country. Active listings statewide hit around 160,877 by the end of 2025, up significantly from where they were just 2 years earlier. So sellers started listing, but buyers weren't biting, not at the prices sellers were asking. Redfin data from September 2025 showed that stale listings, homes sitting on the market for 60 days or more without going under contract, hit 84.6% in Miami and 84.6% in Fort Lauderdale. Those are the 2 highest stale listing rates in the entire country. 8 in 10 homes listed in Miami just sat there. And here's where the psychology kicked in. Many of these sellers bought during the 2020 to 2022 boom. They saw prices go up 25%, then 20%, then another 12%. They still have those numbers in their heads. So when buyers came in and offered less, sometimes significantly less, a lot of sellers said, "I'd rather pull it off than take a haircut." Mike Pappas, CEO of the Keys Company, explained it pretty directly. He said sellers were pulling their homes because they've got equity, and there's simply no pressure to sell. For most of them, this wasn't desperation, it was a choice. And that choice, made by tens of thousands of sellers, is exactly what set up the relisting wave we're dealing with right now. Let's just run through what the data looks like because it's striking. In Miami alone, at the peak of last summer, there were 59 homes delisted for every 100 new homes listed. Not 10, not 20, 59. According to Realtor.com analysis, that was the highest ratio in the country and double what it had been just a month earlier. Nationally, delistings had jumped 47% year over year by June 2025. By October, they were up nearly 38% compared to the prior October. And for the full year, 2025 logged the highest number of canceled contracts and delistings since Realtor.com started tracking the metric. Now, who were these sellers? According to Redfin, about 34% of them bought their homes between 2020 and 2023. Another 13% bought even more recently, within the last 2 years. Put together, nearly half of all delistings in September 2025 came from owners who'd held the property for 5 years or less. Many of them bought near the top. Now they're watching prices dip and they don't want to take a loss. Redfin found that roughly 15% of delisted homes in September were at risk of selling below what the owner originally paid, the highest that share had been in 5 years. So they sat, they waited, and many of them are now coming back to market in 2026. In Cape Coral specifically, MLS data from January 2026 showed that more than 1 in 4 active listings, 27.6% or 835 homes, previously failed to sell in 2025 and had returned to market. That's not a small number. That is a significant chunk of what buyers are seeing right now when they browse listings. Here's the part that goes beyond just prices and rates. Because this story isn't only about sellers being stubborn. There's a deeper problem that's made Florida's market uniquely difficult, and it's making the relisting crisis harder to resolve. Insurance and HOA fees. Condo values in Florida have dropped 9.9% over the past 12 months, according to housing analyst Nick Gurley. That's a real number, and the main driver isn't buyers disappearing, it's the cost of owning the property. In markets like Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Naples, condo HOA fees have exploded. Average condo fees in Naples now run around $1,000 a month. In Miami, the blended average is between $835 and $965. In Fort Lauderdale, condo owners are averaging around $646 a month. That's before their mortgage, before their insurance. That's just the HOA. And insurance has made things even worse. Florida homeowners are paying an average of $7,136 a year in insurance premiums, among the highest in the country. Multiple carriers have exited the Florida condo market entirely, leaving associations scrambling. And when an HOA can't get adequate insurance, those buildings don't meet financing requirements from agencies like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, or VA. If a building isn't financeable, the pool of buyers shrinks dramatically. Cash only, basically. Oliver Orlicki, a loan originator at the Orlicki Group, said it clearly. Getting insurance for these associations has been very expensive, and the way HOAs cover it is by raising monthly dues or hitting owners with special assessments. When that happens, buyers see the number and they back off. Half of the top 10 U.S. metros with the most unsold condo inventory are in Florida. Condo listings rose 37% from June 2024 to June 2025, and 43% of condo sellers had to reduce their asking price, compared to just 17% in 2021. The people still trying to sell are competing against all of that, and a lot of them are finding out, the hard way, that the price they thought they could get simply isn't supported anymore. So now we're in spring 2026, and what Resi Club predicted back in December 2025 is playing out almost exactly as expected. Resi Club noted at the end of last year that markets seeing the biggest spikes in delistings, and Florida was right at the top of that list, would likely see those listings return to market in spring 2026. Some would relist, others would try the rental market, and both things are happening. January 2026 set a record for new listings in Florida, the most for any January going back all the way to 2008. Single-family new listings were up 7% year over year. Condo and townhouse new listings were up 2.7%. The inventory that was disappearing last fall, it didn't actually go away. It held its breath, and now it's exhaling. As of early 2026, active inventory statewide sits at 5.2 months of supply for single-family homes and 9.7 months for condos and townhouses. 9.7 months is deep buyer's market territory. Fort Myers and Naples are carrying 6.6 months of supply for single family and 8.8 months for condos. In Cape Coral, nearly 46% of active listings have been sitting for 90 days or more. And the price expectations still haven't fully adjusted. In Cape Coral, the median active list price is sitting at $434,995, while the median price homes actually closed at in 2025 was $375,000. That's a nearly $60,000 gap between what sellers want and what buyers are paying. Analysts at Long Yields project that statewide prices will decline another 2 to 4% through year-end 2026, with Southwest Florida condos facing peak to trough drops of 8 to 15%. The cities expected to take the hardest hits: Cape Coral at a projected 10.2% decline, Northport at 8.9%, and Tampa at 3.6%. The sellers who came back to market with the same price they had last fall, they're finding the same silence they left.
Here's where things stand right now. Florida has more homes for sale than it has in years. Buyers have leverage they haven't had since before the pandemic. But sellers, many of them, are still anchored to numbers that the market just won't support. Insurance is still expensive, HOA fees are still climbing, and the buyers who do show up are doing their homework, running the full monthly cost before they even make an offer. The domestic migration that powered Florida's boom has essentially stalled. Net in-migration fell from 310,000 people in 2022 to just 22,500 by mid-2025. The people who used to flood into Florida and snap up everything, a lot of them are doing the math on insurance premiums and HOA fees and choosing to stay put. What we're watching right now is a market that's finding its floor. Not a crash, the data doesn't support that, but a slow, uncomfortable correction that's making life difficult for anyone who bought at the top, anyone trying to sell a coastal condo, and anyone who assumed what worked in 2021 would still work today. The sellers who gave up last fall are back, and everyone is watching what happens next. If you found this useful, share it with someone watching the Florida market, and subscribe if you want to keep up with how this plays out over the next few months. We'll have more data as it comes in.